Hello and welcome everybody. Again, we're back here on the Venus Spirit YouTube channel together with my good friend, Dr. Raymond Keller. It's going to be the second part of a four-part series where we are exploring the Venus-Earth-Germany connection. For those of you who don't I will just say one word in German now. Für diejenigen von euch, die kein Englisch verstehen, ich bitte euch, die automatischen Untertitel zu aktivieren. Das geht in YouTube unten über CC und dann gibt es dort ein kleines Rad. Da kannst du dir deine Sprache auswählen und die Untertitel aktivieren. Ich bemühe mich auch, die Untertitel und alles noch auf Deutsch zur Verfügung zu stellen. Doch mit den Untertiteln geht es auch relativ gut. Dankeschön für dein Verständnis und ich hoffe, du kannst die Information sehr gut aufnehmen und sehr, sehr genießen, denn es ist wirklich ein spannendes Thema. We are going to dive deeper, go the next step today into this exploration. And you know, Ray, this might be interesting for you as well, that the question about the question in what kind of way Germany has some spiritual task or something specific to do on a spiritual level, and nowadays probably also on the scientific and technological level, is something that really many people, especially in the German-speaking area, are very interested in. I feel that many people also feel like we want to find healing on stuff that happened in the past, what happened in the Second World War and with the Third Reich and everything, so that there seems still to be lots of load on guilt and shame and everything on the shoulders of the Germans. And I feel that we are at this point also trying to uncover all other aspects so that we can find eventually truth and healing also in that kind of way, you know.
Oh yes, Anya, this is very important. This is very important. And we see that Germany is the first nation in the modern times, excluding Atlantis and Lemuria, that is bringing space technology to the fore, the first nation to introduce space technology, rocketry, anti-gravity, like we talked about with the Speller generator. And of course, this comes with a great responsibility. And we'll see in today's program, we're going to look at the Operation Paperclip, about how that technology came to the United States from Germany, and how the scientists that came to the United States in that project helped build up the space program, and even worked very diligently in creating the first successful space probe to Venus, the Mariner 2, and I even have some photographs to show of that.
Wow, that sounds exciting, you know, and this makes it even, we should have called the program the Venus Earth USA Germany connection, because it is so much interconnected, right? I mean, everything is also connected so deeply with the USA and with the politics and everything. So it's just fascinating. So anyway, again,
I would say to the world too, because following the war, many scientists went to the former Soviet Union. They went over to Russia as well. And so all the space technology that's propelling us into what Michael Salla calls the Star Trek future is all due to the German influence. And when we look back and into German history, we also see that there were many looking at the spiritual implications of it, like Rudolf Steiner, the famous theosophist, that preparing humankind for our eventual entrance into a greater galactic community.
Well, we will continue to dive deeper and to explore all that. So for today, of course, we will start after this introduction now with some Venus Spirit news. We have to share again a few things before we go into the second part of the show of the Venus, Earth, USA, Germany, Russia connection.
Yes, it's truly an international connection. Well, I'm going to bring up the poster for the Pittsburgh area UFO conference on April the 29th and say a little bit about that. Okay, here we have the 15th annual Pittsburgh UFO conference, which will be held on Saturday, April the 29th this year from 9 in the morning until 8 at night. And we see that there's several interesting speakers there, and I will be the first speaker after lunch at 12:45 until 2:15. And the subject of my talk will be a future beyond imagination. This conference on UFOs and other paranormal phenomena like Bigfoot and cryptids, so forth, will be taking place at the Westmoreland Community College, sponsored by the Mutual UFO Network of Pennsylvania. And it will be appropriately held in the Science Hall at the community college in Youngwood, Pennsylvania, which is to the southeast of Pittsburgh in the Westmoreland County. So if you're in the United States, or if you're going to be visiting the United States and you'd like to come and meet me and Bill Burns from the UFO magazine, John Ventre, James Krug talking about the inner Earth, and David Floyd talking about cryptids and Bigfoot. Please come on out. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And then Anya, if you would tell our viewers about Mount Shasta and how they could get some tickets.
Yes, I'm very happy to do that. It's again an event in the United States. It's going to be between June 22nd and June 25th in Mount Shasta. And this is going to be a very uplifting and wonderful and probably unique experience for many reasons, but one of the reasons is that the solid Venus ground crew will be together at the same spot. And this means that our good friend, the Venusian Omnec Onec, oh, I'm showing you, this is, for example, a photo of Omnec and myself from our very early years when we were meeting in Landshut in Bavaria in my previous bookstore. This was in 1997. So Omnec Onec is the woman from Venus, and she will be with us there in Mount Shasta. She's a real Venusian. She came from the astral level of Venus in 1955. And so combined with the Venus historian and myself as the German connection, the German assistant and facilitator, we will be one heart. And all hearts that feel somehow drawn and connected to the Venus energy and to unconditional love and to their to love in general, to the real love, the divine love, they will find
Yes.
everything.
Thank you, Anya. I really appreciate that. It's a
And I'm
beautiful.
going to share 1 second. For those of you who would like to know more about this conference, please visit my website. It's venus-spirit.com. And here you see this is, of course, this crew that I was just talking about, including Robert Potter, because he's also a Venus contactee and he's the organizer of the whole conference. But there are also many, many other wonderful and known speakers. You can see more about the speakers on Robert Potter's website, thepromiserevealed.net. But if you would like to have a special ticket to a reduced price with discount, please get it directly from my page. It's as I said, you see it directly when on the homepage. There is a link, and here you get all the information, and you get also some special gifts when you click on that link and get the ticket directly from here. So if you have any chance to be there with us, really make use of it if you can somehow to be there with us. So we are very much looking forward to being with you. 4 days conference in June. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anya. And I know we're also going to be of one mind and one purpose, and we'll be participating in many panel discussions that you'll have time to meet not only those with a Venus connection, but also from Sirius and Arcturus and other star systems as well, as the title of the conference is Angels and Aliens, the New Spiritual Paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll look forward to seeing you there. And as well as the Venus News. For the Venus News, I'm continuing to publish articles on Lon Stricklers, phantomsandmonsters.com. And today he just posted up part 6 of my series on George Adamski and his visit to Europe in 1963, his second trip to Europe. And I'd like to share something from that article on Adamski's opinions on world government when he was asked by various Belgians at that time to make a comment on that situation. So we're going to go to phantomsandmonsters.com. And here we see the section in the middle there on world government. And they asked him, Mr. Adamski, are you of the opinion that the space people can or will further the establishment of a possible world government, or must such an objective necessarily wait for a sufficiently high development of humankind? In other words, must the leaders of national governments realize for themselves the necessity of a world government and take the appropriate steps to have it established and duly recognized? And Professor Adamski, what his students called him as professor, from Mount Palomar, California, said, there is no doubt that national governments will take the initiative, but only if the people, through elected representatives, voice a genuine interest. We all know the saying, the will of the people is the will of the country. Anything short of this will result in an oppressive dictatorship where everyone suffers as they currently do in China, Cuba, the Soviet Union, and its satellite countries. Remember, this was in May of 1963.
Mm-hmm.
The space people will not deal with thugs in control of the world. So they're on the side of peaceful democratic forces.
Mm-hmm.
It's good news there. And that was that article. And there's going to be 2 more in that series. So if you keep watching the series, you'll see one every week. So there's 2 more to go in the
Yes.
next 2 weeks.
And I'm translating it in German und auf Deutsch ist es veröffentlicht in den UFO-Nachrichten.
Oh yes, that was awesome. I loved it. I love the way that is presented in the UFO-Nachrichten. It's the oldest UFO publication in Europe and the most sophisticated, dealing with the contactee phenomenon. And there's some first-time photos there that haven't been seen before of George Adamski from my personal Venus files, Keller Venus files. Thank you so much. Okay, then there are 2 more probes that are going to Venus. This brings from the world, from 4 nations so far, the United States, Russia, Japan, and the European Union, almost 50 space probes so far that have gone to Venus. And there's 2 more that are coming down the line. With the Parker probe that used the gravitational assist of Venus to go slingshot around the sun and come back to Venus back and forth five different times. They took many photographs of Venus and discovered many unique phenomena of lighting on what was supposedly the dark side, unique weather patterns that mimic those on Earth, and found many similarities between the Earth and Venus that inspired them to send 2 more probes. So we have by the middle of the next decade, we should be much further along. So we have the Da Vinci probe and then the Veritas probe just from the United States. And I understand that India and some other countries are going to join the quest for getting more information about Venus. So they know that it's more than a lifeless world, and they know that there's a long history of a great civilization there that existed long before life emerged on this planet. And so keep watching the Venus news, and we'll have more revelations about space research going on in these different countries. Okay, then we have more news about ViVenus. And I'd like to thank our friend Haluk, who lives in the United Kingdom now. His native country is Turkey, and he's in the British Isles now. But he sent me some photos of ViVenus, who is her story of living on the astral plane of Venus, as well as Omnec Onec is in the book Venus Rising. And there's like 3 or 4 photos of ViVenus in there. But thanks to Haluk, we have another one. And going to bring that up here so you could see what she looks like. Hold on. Okay, that's a photo that we didn't have in the Venus book. This is from originally from the files of Timothy Green Beckley. I think it was originally where it comes from. ViVenus, sometimes called the Star Child. And she talks about her experience on Earth, bringing a message of peace and hope, traveling throughout the United States. And she presented her message with playing a guitar and singing songs, and a very moving story. She was at the 1967 Congress of Scientific Ufologists in New York City, and I have all the transcripts of that in my personal files. And she talked about manipulating energy and matter, and creating beautiful art and music in on the astral plane, and how it's different than what we see on the earth. So that's in the Venus Rising book.
Yes, and I remember when I was working on the German translation of Venus Rising that I came across ViVenus very deeply, and that I ordered the book, which was published by Timothy Green Beckley. I can't remember the title of the book right now, but it's a kind of an autobiography from ViVenus, and I felt just this extremely Venusian, uplifting, beautiful energy of love in it.
Oh, and Anya, I have to tell you that the name of the book was called Venus Star Child.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knows what happened to her. After she completed her tour of walking across the whole United States and going to dozens of cities, she just disappeared, and nobody has seen her ever since.
Yeah,
So,
it's a mystery. I know it remains a mystery, but I'm really glad that through you, Ray, that I came, because 25 years I was only aware of Omnec's story, and I never really was interested in nobody else and other sources, you know. But when through you, I read her book, ViVenus book, and I truly felt the amazing beauty of her words, and what she was sharing, and how she was really I can really recommend it if you really want to dive into a world of beauty and love energy. It's just in the words, it's in the it's between the letters and between the words. It's really the energy of the book.
and this picture of her is a much older one, and but you could see that it exudes Venusian energy of love and compassion, and a greater understanding of the earth, having lived among us for so long, and in a kind of sadness as well, in that not too many people really came to take her seriously, or to believe her story. But when you take the time to read her account in the book Venus Rising, you could read her story, and then you'll be equally moved as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was ViVenus, and now I want to talk about continuation for the German Venus connection, and talk a little bit about the project Paperclip. Okay, this is from my second book, The Final Countdown: Rockets to Venus, and the last chapter is called Project Paperclip, and I just read one section in there. Okay, this is a quote from Dr. Wernher von Braun, who headed up the American space program, the beginning of NASA, about the extraterrestrial influence. Okay, he said that extraterrestrial powers do exist, and they are more powerful than previously thought. and added that I'm not authorized to give you any more details on this issue. So he recognized that on many occasions that there were extraterrestrials that were guiding his research in pushing humankind closer to an exploration of the stars. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, Hermann Oberth, who was Dr. von Braun's teacher, he continued to press his considered opinion regarding the nature of the UFO phenomena and was decidedly a supporter of the extraterrestrial hypothesis. In an article published in the American Weekly Magazine of 24 October 1954, Oberth stated, "It is my thesis that flying saucers are real and that they are spaceships from another solar system. I think that they are possibly manned by intelligent observers who are members of a race that may have been investigating our Earth for centuries." The German scientist also wrote an article in a similar vein that appeared in the second edition of the United Kingdom's prestigious Flying Saucer Review, titled "They Come from Outer Space." The well-written piece reviewed the history of reports of strange luminous objects in the sky. So we see that there's this continued interest in extraterrestrial life and designs to build spacecraft to reach out and become part of a greater galactic community. In 1923, Oberth published his first book, The Rocket into Planetary Space, and because of his writings concerning all things extraterrestrial, including life on other planets and UFOs, many rocket and space research societies sprang up around the world. In the spring of 1930, a much younger Wernher von Braun asked his mentor Oberth, with his early experiments in testing study designs for liquid-fueled rockets. So all this information is in there, and everything is well documented. Among the early societies, these scientists later went on to the United States. So in this section, I wanted to talk about Operation Paperclip. We know that Dr. Wernher von Braun said that the United States was receiving help from extraterrestrials at the beginning of the NASA and the space research program here. And he recognized that extraterrestrials were also helping as early as World War I back in Germany, with various societies exploring outer space and the possibilities of life in outer space. So when these scientists came to the United States, it was under the auspices of this Operation Paperclip. Dr. Hermann Oberth was a Romanian-born scientist, German scientist, German nationality. And he's in the center front in this picture, along with America's rocket program architect, Dr. Wernher von Braun, the second from right, who is originally one of Oberth's students. Here they sit together with other U.S. government space researchers and a high-ranking military officer in the 7 July 1955 photograph. In 1923, Oberth published his first book, The Rocket into Interplanetary Space. And because of his writings concerning all things extraterrestrial, including life on other planets and UFOs, which he also wrote for the Flying Saucer Review in the United Kingdom. Many rocket and space research societies sprang up around the world. In the spring of 1930, a much younger Wernher von Braun aided his mentor Obert with his early experiments in testing sundry rocket designs for a liquid-fueled rocket. And one of the high priorities for the scientists was the exploration of Venus. And here you see President Kennedy in this picture, President John F. Kennedy. High priority given to Venus exploration is aptly demonstrated in this photo. In the Oval Office, Jet Propulsion Laboratory Director Dr. William H. Pickering presents a Mariner spacecraft model to President John F. Kennedy on the right, while NASA Administrator James Webb stands directly behind the model of the Venus probe and explains the intricacies of the United States' first interplanetary mission to the president. The president and all acknowledged that without the expertise of German scientists brought over in Operation Paperclip, the Mariner 2 probe to Venus would never have gotten off the ground. Now, during the period of like 1910 to into the 1920s and 30s, we see the influence of Maria Orsic. She was allegedly born in Zagreb in Yugoslavia of Croatian descent in 1895 and was last reported on Earth in Germany toward the end of World War II. She is believed to be a translated being, and she is just one of the many members of the of what they called the Vril Society, which was looking for communication with extraterrestrials that were initiated through Maria Orsic as the channel from the Aldebaran star system. Now, this is interesting too, because we were talking last week about the influence of anti-gravity research and so forth, and developing more sophisticated equipment. You know that there was in Poland, in occupied Poland during World War II, there was experiment with a craft called the Bell that incorporated, or allegedly incorporated, time travel technology. And interestingly enough, there was such a craft that was discovered, crashed in Pennsylvania, in Kecksburg, the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, to the southeast of Pittsburgh, on December the 5th of 1965. And this is a description of how that technology would work with an ion recycling kind of engine.
Fascinating.
So the thing that came down in the Pittsburgh area, in Kecksburg, in 1965, matched the description of this experimental time machine called Die Glocken, or the Bell, right? Is that the right word for it?
Ja, die Glocke auf Deutsch, ja.
And it's possible that that thing may have been in one experiment went through time, went 20 years into forward into time and crashed in Pennsylvania. So this is the first mention of Vril energy and the secrets of the Vril energy was brought about in a book written by Edward Bulwer Lytton in the United Kingdom. He was born in 1831, same year as Helena Blavatsky, and died in 1891, seen here at the age of 18. And when they would hold these meetings of the Vril Society in Vienna and in other locations, that was the subject. And then the Vril had an understanding of space and time that was far in advance of anything at the time. Maria Orsic explained that the star system of Aldebaran was intimately linked with our own solar system through magnetic reconnection of light tunnels that permeate the entire cosmos. So not only is there a magnetic connection and reconnection between all the planets of our own solar system at the north poles of each respective planet, but there are also magnetic reconnections of light made between different star systems. And Maria Orsic and some of the others were believed to have communicated with beings from Aldebaran through their long hair. That's why they refused to cut it, because, like any wire, it serves as both a receiver and a transmitter. And that's why they never cut their hair, so they could receive these transmissions from the Aldebaran, and they were recorded in various journals and logs, and I write about that in that book, The Final Countdown: Rockets to Venus. So you could read those. Real influence in German sci-fi. This is from Fritz Lang's Woman in the Moon, produced in 1929. And there's other influences of the real science and technology, and also the influence of Aldebaran on Venus and carrying over to the Earth. There is the another Fritz Lang production was 1927. Was based on the writings of Nikola Tesla about the bees and the Telescope and so forth. And in the movie Metropolis, Fritz Lang produces a perfect society that's based on a beehive. And the central nerve complex for the entire Metropolis is a building built in the shape of a beehive, and all these little compartments where everybody had a certain function to carry out. But all that's explained in the Rockets to Venus, and also in all the Venus books, there's some reference to that. Here's the first German space decal. The first V2 rocket to be successfully launched from Peenemünde had the Woman on the Moon logo painted on its base. Rocketeers Willy Ley and Hermann Oberth served as consultants on the film. And that was the one that we just saw there, right there. Woman on the Moon, 1929. Okay, then here's Dr. Werner von Braun with John F. Kennedy in 1962. Happy days are here again, as NASA rocket scientist Dr. Werner von Braun and President John F. Kennedy at Cape Canaveral on the 20th of February, 1962 for the launching of John Glenn's Friendship 7 and the Gemini mission. Now, one thing that's very interesting about that you'll see in the next article in the George Adamski series is he talks about that in 1963, about seeing fireflies in space, that he wrote about in 1955 in his book Inside the Spaceships. And it exactly matches the description that was given of fireflies in space by John Glenn on that Friendship 7 mission in February of 1962. And so when Adamski went to Belgium and to Denmark, they were asking him about that because everything that Adamski said in 1955 about the fireflies and so forth, the firefly effect in space, was vindicated by John Glenn in that specific mission that you see depicted there. Okay, so that's the connection for this week. In the next episode, we'll look at the first launch into outer space in modern times by a German astronaut, and all the documentation and the evidence will be there.
Okay. And at some point, probably then in the last part, we also want to understand the connection between Günter Specht, who was supposedly sent or guided or somehow with his rocket, right, to Venus, to the past, to a very, very far away past on Venus, where he had experiences. And then
Yes.
he was returned. Somehow he was returned, or he returned. I don't get it yet. So this is what I hope that you can explain, that he eventually returned to the Earth, and that on Venus, Teutonia was named after him because he originated from Germany and he had something good to do, some mission on Venus. And then he returned to the Earth sometime in the 60s or 70s or whenever, it doesn't matter at this point. And I have no idea what happened to him and anything and something, but it's again another story, fascinating story with time travel, Venus, Earth, Germany, USA connection.
Oh yes, and it's
rocket all... and an astronaut.
Yes, you'll get the whole story and how it's and it's fully documented, so all the sources will be listed, and it's not science fiction. It's quite real.